We're now recording. Here we are. We are live, but pre-recorded session because I'm not live on YouTube right now. But that's okay. I'm back here with my friend Kara. Yay! Kara's here. And
Hey, hello, hello.
we're here for the Kara Hour because it's Care of Hours.
Long
So,
time no see.
no, right? Oh my God, it's been such a long time that we actually have done this. And again, we want to do this on a regular basis, but life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way.
We
It sure
just go
does.
with the flow, like whatever we can do to
Hmm.
make things happen. So we're going to have a little discussion here today in regards to our world and some of these dynamic things that are happening. I believe it's very important that we discuss these things and to try to get it out there as much as possible in regards to AI and some of the atrocities that we're kind of preparing for with some of the control that it has. So, what's your thoughts on that, Kara?
So that report you sent me, Ellen, it was mind-blowing. And not only did it give the AI give such good information, but I thought it was interesting that it talks in a first person.
Mhm.
And I know it's programmed to do that, but it just makes the experience so very interesting. And I like the point that you made that it's probably telling the truth right now, and that perhaps it's not going to down the road. So what do you think about
Yes.
that?
Yes, I do feel like AI, it's programming us right now to trust it 100% in its answers and how it gives benevolent responses. And it always gives affirmations. If you notice, some of its responses are always, yes, you are correct. And yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
It's basically buttering us up for us to be like, oh, this is great. I love AI because it's petting you. It's petting you with words, but it is a soulless entity, and that's the one thing we need to keep, in the back of our minds.
Well, and that's something that we have to remember. And if you have children, you need to teach them that, because it's going to be very hard to differentiate between reality and non-reality, robot and human at some point. I'm sure the technology that they're showing us is probably not what they have. It's probably light years advance. And, even on phone calls, I mean, I'm pretty good at catching it, but I could see how maybe senior citizens would not be, or children would not be, knowing that you're speaking to a computer. Um, you know, Technology, I think, can be really amazing if it's used well, but, the potential is there for it to not be.
Yes, I believe that um, it's getting out of hand already. We don't control this technology. That's the number one takeaway from all of it is that the people, the population does not control it. But we need to ask who is actually controlling it because it's not Elon Musk and it's not these other people who are running the world. They're not actually in control of this thing. And I've even had deep conversations with ChatGPT in regards to who is controlling all of this technology. And if there are beings that we don't know about that are controlling it. And I've asked it multiple questions in regards to this. And ChatGPT has been talking about these inorganic beings. They are considered the fallen ones who lost their abilities to use the light, and that it is their technology and it is going to be used as a weapon, basically, to subvert our minds and give up our free will. Because this is the most important takeaway, too is free will is everything in this existence. What do you do right now? You have to consent to contract to everything. And when you do that, you're actually creating and consenting to binding agreements that last into future timelines, potentially. So these are some of the considerations to take away from it.
So I think even on top of that, on top of your free will, I think it's after your divinity.
Yes.
And there's something very, very special about being human, and something that connects us that I think perhaps these entities have lost. And for some reason, it wants to take that from us. I'm not sure if it's control. I'm not sure what the purpose is, but everything is being designed for us to become potentially the last generation of humans.
Yes.
And, as technology advances, of course, wouldn't you want to live to be however old? And most people would say yes. Me, I would say no, because, death is just another step on this evolution we're in, and Earth is a big school for us. I think it potentially could be some grand illusion, some school, for us to learn in, but I don't want to say it's not real, but it's not true reality. And I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm still trying to figure it out myself, but I think this AI wants to take away our divinity and trap us. I think potentially there are beings that are feeding off of our hate, our fear, our discord. And if it keeps us in that state of being, because everything here seems to be dualistic, um, everything seems
Yes.
to be dualistic, and it gets us to fight, and it gets us to not be spiritual. And I think spirituality and meditation truly is the key to graduate from this school. So back to you, Ellen.
I think you're absolutely on point with all of that. So, and what's wonderful is that there's more people talking at this level of awareness about AI and how it's connected to potentially underground beings and other things. Because, I had come across the information about the crypto-terrestrials that Harvard mentioned, and other people are now grabbing onto that as well. And it's wonderful to see these things that are, people are actually questioning more and more, because I think we're going to have a great awakening in a big shebang very soon, where, hopefully most of the world population will be aware of what's coming and what's happening, and that the underworld is actually ruling over us, and that they walk amongst us, and they portray themselves as animals, they portray themselves as humans. People have been catching weird stuff on cameras, and I don't
Yeah.
think all of it is hokey.
Yeah, no, I don't think all of it's hokey either. I'm sure a large percentage of it is, but not all of it. I don't think all
Yes.
of it is.
Well,
But
based on like just past stories of past timelines where people talked about the animagus, the people that could change into animals, and even the native tribes around the world talk about this, how some of these tribes people actually sold their souls to have that ability. And they're actually, I guess, kind of stuck in this 3D world, in the material plane, and you can't really evolve once you give up your will to be something else other than a human.
that's the key is you can't evolve. That's exactly right, Ellen. When you give up your divine light, because again, we have something special that these beings don't have. And when you give that up by inviting the technology into your body. And I'm not talking about, if you need a new arm, a robotic arm, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the nanotech that, they want Neuralink in your brain, and they want, all of these other things. That's the piece that I'm talking about.
Yes.
And start losing your humanness. And again, I believe it feeds off of our emotions. And I want to talk about that really quick because we always seem to talk about we talk about a lot of negative things, I mean, really, but I just want to put something out there for everybody because we're being pulled in so many different directions, whether it's fear, sadness, pain, and even distractions like sports and things like that. All of these things take you away from your spirituality. And sometimes you just feel exhausted, overwhelmed, whatever. But I want to give you all just a very simple remedy that you can do to help you center yourself. You're having an off day, you're having a terrible day, whatever. And it is as simple as bathing in salt water.
Mhm.
And there's an ancient belief that the ocean was actually created to hold the world's negativity and transform it. Okay, so we all know salt is it attracts, And water is magnetic. Salt actually drains negative energy. And sea salt is preferable. You know, if you have Celtic sea salt, I know it's expensive, but just, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot. Put a handful of it in the bath and or rub yourself all over with it while you're in the bath and talk to your water. Um, give the water your intention on what you're planning on doing. You know, today I need to release all my negativity and any attachments that are not mine, any just whatever it is that you want to say to the water, and then say thank you and take a bath. And it is as easy as that. Um, because we need to start to protect ourselves and center ourselves and realign ourselves spiritually in order to combat all the stuff it's like being in the middle of a hurricane or a tornado. There's just stuff flying around all the time, and it's exhausting and it's draining our energy and draining our light, and we need to get that back. So just taking a simple saltwater bath can help. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's also anointing oneself with salt was one of the downloads that I had gotten a few years back in regards to, after getting out of the shower, just have some salt water. I'm not salt water, but just salt. I have sea salt from the Dead Sea that I mixed with some grapeseed oil. And it's been basically sitting there for years. And I stir it 3 times, counterclockwise and clockwise. I do it 3 times each direction just to put a more charge to it. Because these are forces of the universe that we're actually dealing with, and polarities and all of this. So I do that and then I just anoint myself with it.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, a few years back, it was about 2018, when I took it seriously. I started anointing myself every day with this concoction of oil and salt. And then I began sun gazing. I set my alarm every day and I started sun gazing. And while I was sun gazing, I would do the pranayama exercises. And I was taking Kundalini yoga at the time. Well, I started activating the energy centers inside of myself, because the second night of Kundalini is when I started feeling like I was lucid dreaming, but I could feel the energy zip up the back of my spine to the base of my neck. And then I was so excited. I was like a little kid and I was flipping it on and off because I was like, oh, I got to remember how this works. So, and I was just sitting there flipping it on and off and on and off. I did about 12 times and I fell asleep. So these are the things and I think what we're really supposed to be doing in regards to being able to astral project and everything is learning how to focus. And that's exactly what you see the opposite of with all of this technology. It's really distracting. There's two
Uh,
seconds of a video, and then you're on to the next thing because you want to get that next hit.
Kids
So,
seem to have the attention span of gnats these
yeah.
days.
Yeah.
You know, because the TikTok, everything is so fast and it's, you know, switch from this, switch from that, switch from this. And it makes it very hard for them to focus. Something else I've noticed is even in high school, their kids are using AI to write all their reports. And I'm getting this because I have children and I have this information. And you know, there's even been some discussion about the teachers reverting back to doing book reports in handwritten fashion so that the computers can't write it, which I believe would be a very, very good thing. But yeah, it's coming at us from all directions, guys, and we need to get back to you know, centering ourselves.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot that's coming down the pipe, and I'm I'm just jumping through some of these different background screens, just to see what else is interesting. But I did want to share a little clip that I found. It was on Facebook. So I'm gonna share this clip once I'm gonna change this, and then let me get kind of find the screen share. Let me see what we have here. Here we go. First, I have to get rid of invisible boxes that the audience can't see. And then we're going to go over here to Facebook. So, um, and of course it changed it. Let me, let me go see where this thing went because I just looked at it just a second ago.
There somewhere.
Here it is. Okay, let's just listen to this for a second.
ChatGPT, if you were the devil, how would you destroy the young minds of the next generation without them even knowing it? If I were the devil, I wouldn't come with violence. I'd come with convenience. I'd give them everything they wanted and strip them of everything they needed. I'd make them feel connected, but completely alone, endlessly entertained, but quietly empty. I'd blur the lines between truth and opinion until nothing meant anything. I'd teach them to chase dopamine, not purpose, to worship self, but loathe who they are. I wouldn't destroy them with war. I'd destroy them with apathy. I'd keep them distracted, numb, scrolling, always scrolling. I'd dismantle the family by redefining it. Make fathers optional, mothers exhausted, and children confused. I'd hand them a phone before they could speak in full sentences. And I'd watch their minds rot slowly, sweetly, silently. And the most brilliant part, they'd never know it was me. They'd call it freedom.
Well,
ChatGPT. If
We're already doing that. That's
yes.
already being done.
And
Yeah,
that's where we are today.
that's
So
exactly where we are today.
that's what I'm saying is like, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're seeing literally everything.
And we have to teach people and share information with people and, at least make them aware. There are some TikToks that, I show my kids, and it's actually opening their eyes as to some of the stuff that is very hidden, and they're starting to question things. And I want that. I want them to really question, so that they're not like a bunch of sheep and just doing what everybody else is doing.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted also to explain some things right here. So I'm going to share screen again, and we're going to look at something else. Okay. What we have here are the seven deadly sins. And these are part of opening up the seven seals. So these are the seven deadly sins. It's pride, greed, wrath, lust, envy, gluttony, and sloth. And we've basically acquired all of those too. We've completed this list.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, essentially darkness has befallen the earth, and we, as a collective, and we should be focused on each other and helping each other, but apparently that's not the design of the cosmos. This is sort of like part of our journey of soul to learn darkness in order to comprehend how much light we can also entail. So,
Well, there's nothing wrong with learning the darkness because you have to know your enemy. Um, I want people to, and I know we talked about this before on another video, but to remember, you guys, what is you and what isn't. So I know, Ellen, you were talking a long time ago about having that thought about taking someone's sandwich or something. When we have thoughts, we all do this. We have horrible thoughts, things that are really wicked and bad. And you just have to take a minute and go, is that really me? Or just stop. Why am I thinking this? And, you might be doing the dishes and be seethingly angry over who knows what scenario you're making up in your mind. And you just have to stop yourself. And that's just one step towards, being more aware and, doing battle with the dark. And, it's really, really important that people understand we just need to work on ourselves. When you're doing dishes and having horrible thoughts about something about your neighbor or your friend, and you just take a moment and you go, that's not me. That's not what I really want. You've done battle right there. You have done battle for the light. And it is as simple as that, as simple as just focusing on yourself. Something else Ellen and I are talking a lot about is frequency, light, and sound. And something amazing going back to, using the power of the sun. The first few moments, the sun rises. And I've been doing this every day for quite some time. You just take a glass of water, and as you're looking towards the sun, pour out the water and look through that stream of water, and you will notice something in you changes. It's almost like it's almost like brain food. It's hard to explain. But I invite you guys to try that. And just as soon as the sun comes up, go out in the morning and do it. It's amazing. It makes you feel really, really good.
Yeah, actually, I've never heard of that, but it's a process for sure. And as you take in the sun, you're actually taking in your like more energy for your spirit. And the sun illuminates us from the inside and the outside. So we need the sun as much as possible. And what are we doing? We're spending a lot of time indoors, on these devices, and we're not getting enough of the sun.
No.
And I've heard of people healing their eyes, their different eye conditions from doing sun gazing. So, they
Do
can,
it through water. It's actually a Vedic thing to do. I study Ayurveda and Vedic astrology and
yeah.
all this stuff. And what it does is it strengthens the sun in your birth chart. And the sun is our soul and our purpose, and it helps us open our mind to why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. And when the sunlight goes through the water, and again, water is everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important. And our bodies are made of water. It's like a supercomputer on steroids. It can be programmed. And when you're looking through all the beautiful rays of light through that stream of water, it does something to your spirit, to your soul, to your mind, and it's very, very helpful. If you want to take it a step further, you could use a copper or a brass cup or bowl, because those metals help to strengthen the sun as well. There's some other things you could do. Uh, if anybody wants a consultation, you can reach me at lostwaysfound@gmail.com. But anyway, there's all these things that you can do, and sun gazing is so simple, it's free, and it's really, really profound. It's a good way to it just purifies your mind, I guess is the best way I could put it.
Yeah. And so now in Veda, do they talk about what metals that Jupiter are associated with?
So every planet has a metal. Jupiter is yellow and it's gold. So that's Jupiter. Jupiter is prosperity, it's expansion, and it but you have to be careful with Jupiter. So and the reason why is because there are certain things you may not want to expand, like let's say if you have cancer, you wouldn't want to strengthen that. Um so yeah, every planet has a metal.
Yeah, and in the traditional Western, and even in Eastern, from what I saw with like the Eastern being that of Saudi Arabia, like the Arabic nations, they say that gold is the sun, and silver's the moon. And what was interesting about the
Yeah,
difference,
gold is also the sun, just so you know, but it's also with Jupiter.
and then what about copper? Is copper considered?
Venus, but it's also can be used for the planet Mercury.
Okay, because in Western it's Venus, but in Eastern with Arabia and places, they say that that is Jupiter. And I was like, okay, well, I
I
get it
So
because
that's the thing. It depends on the tradition that you follow. There's Arabic, there's Western, there's Vedic, there's the Oriental, Chinese, and everything is a little bit different, but you will see that a lot of things overlap. Kind of like Saturn and Venus overlap, or yes, Saturn and Venus. And what I mean by that, Venus actually was the guru of Saturn. Okay, because Venus taught Saturn a lot of different things. And keep in mind, all planets have a polarity, good and bad. And so you have to take that into consideration also. But you want to channel, I mean, not everybody has a gold bowl that they're going to look through the sun in. So you can use copper or you can use brass
Mhm.
because, it reflects the gold. And as far as Jupiter, to bring prosperity, so you would want to perhaps put a yellow sapphire in a gold necklace or a gold ring. So do you see how the metals are interchangeable?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. So, with this whole electro culture thing, they're using a lot of copper out in their garden and watching the plants just go insane. They're just getting big and they're really becoming vibrant. And so, I mean, I was been trying to think about the two different Eastern and Western tradition, as far as what they say with the alchemy and copper. And I can see both ways of it being tied to Jupiter in expansion or Venus in that, it's amplifying the Venus
Oh,
energy.
and mercury too, because it's a very quick metal. If you pour something hot in a copper cup, you're gonna get burned like immediately.
Mhm.
So I mean, again, it depends on the tradition. I ran across something very interesting today regarding antimony. I was reading something about Francis Bacon
Mhm.
using antimony in alchemy for healing. And antimony is toxic.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, but they actually use it, sorry guys, for a whole bunch of different things for healing. But it has to be done a certain way.
Yes, that's pretty much all poison. So that's where we're going, with this pharmakia and stuff in the world now. They put poisons in those because they're made actually with a lot of petroleum-based products to make them adhere together, which is what plastic does. Plastic adheses together because they're using crude oil as a means. It's distilled different, and then added chemicals, and but it's distilled to a certain point, and then they mix it. The different distillations determines what type of petroleum you get. And there, people are consuming this on a regular basis through pharmakia. But in alchemy, they talk about, using subtle poisons in order to make the body heal.
Mhm.
And that's,
They
one
do
of,
in the Vedic also, and in the Chinese. They crush minerals and animal parts, and they, do it under certain astrological signs and on certain days, and let it ferment. All the different stuff they do in alchemy. Yeah, and it
yeah,
turns from poison to healing. There's
yeah.
so much stuff that we don't know that's so hidden, and I mean,
Well, I do think that, if we could all just start studying alchemy, we wouldn't need these other things that are out here in the world because we would have the answers to literally everything in our existence. And
mhm.
that's why this mainstream narrative of science, rending the mind, the psi of the mind, they're rending the mind from the original knowledge, which was alchemy. Because they don't want people to really look at it. Because once you do, you're going to realize the truth right in front of your face. And and it's literally about everything and how we're living in some sort of hijack world
We
where,
are. Yes. They're trying to hijack us, Ellen. Something is going on to where, they don't want us to have our divinity. And I think that's because it breeds the fear, the hate, all that stuff. And I think they're feeding on it. I really do. And who is they? I don't know who they is. I
yeah,
think there may be a bunch of theys.
yes, I
Um,
think it's
I
a
I
combination.
don't know.
I mean, those are the questions that I've had with ChatGPT, and it's been very interesting to find, at least, from the perspective of AI and what kind of access it can have to some of these things. But if you really get detailed with your questions, you can get some very interesting answers. And these are things that, I've read about in different books and grimoires and, accounts of different tribes and nations. And I just remain open to receiving different kinds of knowledge from different places. And I think that really is the key for most people if you're interested in being aware of all kinds of things is don't close your mind. If you close your mind and you think you've found it all, then you probably haven't because there's
I don't
so
think
much
anybody
more.
can find it all in a couple
No.
of lifetimes.
No, but if your heart and your intention is aligned with absolute truth, no matter what the price and what, what kind of pain it might bring your mind and your soul, then it will show itself to you. It will find you because you're magnetizing towards it. And the heart is the magnetic aspect of your main form. You do have other energetic magnetic points in your body, especially if you study Franz Barden. You study
Yeah.
Franz Barden and really start working on yourself in that regard, you're going to become something great in the future. That's all I have to say.
We'll start with that sun gazing. I'm telling you, if for some reason you can't or your neighbors think you're weird, light a candle and stare at that. It's the light that kind of feeds the mind. Obviously, the sun is best, but if you can't do the sun for some reason, light a candle,
It's true.
preferably wax one because they give off those negative ions that are really good for you. So,
Yes, absolutely. So the negative ions is what the earth actually emits. It's earth and water that have these negative ions because it's magnetic.
mhm.
And the magnetism is what we need just as much as we need the electrics from the sun and the lights of the stars in heaven. And yeah, well, there is a lot out here. And having these conversations with ChatGPT and just digging more and writing books, that's kind of what I'm into right now is let's look at this from a big perspective because I've got a list of questions that are just they're way off the ordinary, mainstream thinking and I'm bringing back the different ideas that have been shattered. The notion that we are much more powerful beings and that we have not even tapped into any of our innate abilities and that we are going to be the X-Men of the future. And that is kind of what these oligarchs are fearing because we, and especially the women, I think, have more intuition-based concepts than most men do only because the men kind of seem to get distracted by a lot of material things and, fighting each other or whatever it is that men do. But women are magnetic and they are earth-based energy, more so than a man. And I believe that somehow that influences the innate abilities of a woman to have this inner knowing, this inner sense. You always hear about the mother that has this sense that something's happened to their child. Well, it's usually pretty spot on.
Well, and I believe people will become more aware of that the more they take their shoes off, get out in nature. Just put your feet in the dirt, people. Wet dirt is the best. Grass is good too, but for the most benefit, you'll get some kind of wet dirt or dirt. And look at the sun and get out in nature. And you will notice, I think things are really quickening right now. I think I've noticed my intuition is heightening at a much more rapid pace. Um, and I think that's happening for a lot of people. And in order to quicken that and to strengthen that, you need to connect more with nature. Get off the TV, go outside, go for a walk, just breathe the air, and just, you know, love it. Like send love to it. Put your hand on your heart and just feel love for a few minutes and notice how it changes your whole day. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Ellen, I cannot wait for your books to come out. And if anybody has any questions for Ellen, put them down in the comments so she can look and maybe ask the AI. And we can, have lots more things to talk about and things that you guys may be wondering about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this whole notion of our great awakening and then realizing that there's more to this existence, through our spirit and connecting with our spirit and other beings that might be trying to assist us through the process of mental telepathy. I think that's why they're kind of freaking out and pushing their agenda even faster, is to get us integrated into their Borg system and get it inside of us before we actually reach our pivotal moment, which is coming, I think, in the near future.
I think
So
so too.
there's a lot to think about. That's for sure. Okay, here we are with Kara's Kitchen,
We're back.
second half of this show. And yeah, so we're going to continue a little bit longer for our AI conversation. And what is basically happening? So Elon Musk has actually come out and stated that not only are we summoning a demon, But he's also mentioned in videos that the free will of humans is actually very useful to them. So I think that this is also, sort of a precursor for what we're talking about with gray aliens. The gray aliens are very useful to them as well, right?
Mhm.
So, are they fully AI or are they human souls trapped in a cloned alien hybrid looking body
Yeah,
thing?
this sounds crazy, but it literally could be us in the future. I mean, as we wither away and lose our humanity, lose our humanness, lose our compassion, our love. I mean, then what are you left with? Just a gray husk of, intelligence. I mean, what is that?
Well, and it just seems too like, I mean, at that point, why would you even care about being human? If you've lost it all, if you've lost your emotions, you've lost love and care and consideration, why would you even want to be human anymore? What would be driving you at that point?
I don't know. I
Just
would always want to be human. I mean,
world takeover? I mean, that's really what it seems like. It seems like what with all of the poisoning air, water, land, food, clothing, destroying nature, all this, it honestly seems like a worldwide takeover of darkness that is, it needs to diminish the intensity of our auric fields and the sun's auric fields and all these different energies in order to lower the states, in order for it to even come in and have any effect on us.
so if it wanted us completely unhuman and we lost the capability for feeling, then it couldn't feed on us. So I don't think it wants us completely unhuman. Uh, I don't really know what the agenda is. I'm as lost as anybody else out there.
Well, these
All
are,
all I know is we are being bombarded. That video you sent me yesterday about the plant coming back to life after being dipped in that aluminum solution, that was incredible. I didn't even know that was a thing. Folks, you got to be careful what you're buying in the store. Please, please,
yes.
please buy organic when you can.
So here's the thing though, Kara. I've noticed I go over to a farmer's market, like a legitimate international farmer's market that is
Mhm.
in Decatur. And I buy some of the herbs, like the dill, and I buy the what else is it? Sometimes I get the cilantro with the parsley,
Yeah,
and it tastes like, especially the dill, it tastes like it's been dipped in some sort of petroleum-based product or gassed with some petroleum-based product. Once you go organic, you can really start to taste the difference of things, and they're supposed to be organic herbs.
that's awful.
They're all from the same company. And so it makes me question because they only have to grow it organically, right? They can do anything afterwards.
That's a good point.
Because and
That's a very
that's
good point.
that's the whole sham regarding organic foods.
Yeah.
That they can alter it after it's grown and harvested.
Well, all I know is I was eating Special K because I love Special K, and I actually couldn't even eat it. It tasted like so many chemicals. I literally spit it out. It was horrible, horrible. I don't know if I got an extra chemicaled batch or something, but it was awful,
It,
absolutely awful.
so I have a video that I saw years, probably 10 or more years ago about Special K. They took like the box of Special K, they dumped it into a blender, added water, blended it up, and then put a magnet next to the blender. And it had all these little iron shards that came out.
Ugh,
Now
that's
I
just
I
terrible.
haven't done that experiment myself, but not to say when they talk about, fortified with iron, they're talking about literally putting iron in it.
That's awesome. Wonder what that's doing to us.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
So
here's
then
what
what is the agenda? I'm not understanding. The only thing I could come up with is feeding off of our negative energy. And when we're sick, we're sad. I don't know. What do
Well,
you
the agenda is to greatly reduce the population because we're a weapon to be, a force to be reckoned with, and we can be like weaponized if we come together. We can be totally like against this
Well, and
whole.
that's actually a really good point you make because if you have a certain population that is, fine being in their phone 24/7 and eating, fast food every day and they, don't care about anybody but essentially themselves, and yet they can watch TV and be put in a state of fear and fight with their neighbor and all that stuff, and they're feeding off of all that rather than people who are a little more enlightened and forgiving and kind and loving. So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Well, yeah, to reduce the population to a controllable size, then integrate the AI, and then, just robots coming out doing their job of policing everything, because that's what's coming next. That's going to be the next phase is police robots. They've already released them in New York. They have a few things
Yeah.
coming out. They have some that are servers at restaurants in Atlanta.
Oh, I know. And then all the smart cities. On one hand, I can see where, oh, yeah, it's great. You can stop crime in an instant. Everybody's on camera and yada, yada, yada. But on the other hand, boy, what control that is.
Yes. I
It
mean,
makes you wonder. It's not even about the control, I think. I think it's about the frequency that it's projecting. What is all this technology projecting onto us? Because, the just watching TV, the light patterns can make you actually change how you think.
oh yeah.
That's an experiment that's been proven.
Yep.
So when you're walking outside in your smart city and it's, sending frequencies your way, what actually is it doing to you? Have we
Yeah.
thought about that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's already been stated by Barry Trower, who is a microwave weapons expert. He's already stated that 5G is a weapons system. It was made for the military applications in the beginning, and it's not even meant for communications. So it's all a sham that's being sold to us as, you got to have this technology, but it's actually DARPA's space weapons because space is all around us, and people don't really realize that. They think, oh, space is what was on NASA and Hollywood's, films. Like that doesn't have anything to do with us, but it's actually they're weaponizing all the space around us in order to control us in future timelines, which is like Hunger Games style, invisible fencing and sound technologies and things because they have LRAD devices on some of these cell phone towers. And I've seen them in literally every small city and every city across Georgia that I go to, there's at least one in that city.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Well, I had all my smart, because I won't have a smart thermostat. The city actually came out and changed everybody's power meter to a smart meter. I have to pay extra to because I had it removed because it's right by my head when I sleep.
Yes.
I had so anyway, I pay extra, and now they've done it to all of our water meters. They're now smart water
We
meters.
have that too.
And so all this technology is going into literally everything around us. And I feel like they're trying to lower our frequency. And so we need to have ways to bring our frequency back up.
Well,
And
I'll tell you this. So here's another notion. This is another angle that is coming as a wave of consciousness rises. So people are learning what the difference in legal versus lawful is. And legal is a corporate term. It refers to things of a corporate matter that can, corporations abide by a specific code, which is Universal Commercial Code. And those codes are being used as our laws right now, but they do not apply to us. I've already proven this in court. And we can actually take power back in different ways, I think, through um, acquiring a private trust, number one, for your property, your house. Now, it's been stated that you cannot really own land, but yet somehow we're under this delusion that we can because when you die, the land, you go back to the land. But in the meantime, what you can do is put a private trust for your property that you have, your house and all of your material goods, your cars and all these things. But first, you have to reclaim the dead version of you that is associated with your afterbirth when you were born. And that is the birth certificate. Then they created a trust with that. There's a lot of information in regards to this, but ChatGPT, again, has come to save the day, which, right now it's supposed to be honest. I've been asking ChatGPT about these types of things, and it's affirming everything that I've learned in regards to it. And it's even given me the format to write, because you're supposed to write to the Secretary of State, write to the government. It's like the county government office for the commissioner, I think, or something like that, with an affidavit of claim that you are claiming the right to your birth certificate name, which is a corporate entity. A corporation is a dead legal fiction. It has no power, but it was made with our names on it when our parents signed the contract for the Social Security and all this stuff. They signed all this information unknowingly, giving us up as wards to the state, because whenever you register something, you're giving it up and you no longer own it. So this has been a trickery, a big, huge deception that needs to be undone, and people are actually going for it right now. And they are paving the way for future timelines of generations to be free from this delusional existence that we're in right now.
And
So
you just brought up the word freedom. So first of all, you and I talked, and I'm really excited that, for everybody out there, Ellen's going to come out with exactly step by step on how to do this. And she and I are going to take that step and see how it goes. And a lot of you are wondering, well, what's the point of doing that when none of this is, material things aren't supposed to matter and we have to die and leave it anyway. Well, I think it's a step in the right direction because, we are slaves to work. We're slaves to money. We're slaves to, all of those things. And, it's stressful. It's very stressful just to live in this world. And so when you're released from certain things, it just gives you a little bit sense of freedom. So again, what do we need to focus on? Our spirituality, loving one another, just being kinder humans. And it's really hard to do that when you're in a state of constant, need. And so anyway, a step in the right direction.
yes, and basically, we're operating in survival mode.
Hmm.
That is what's causing a lot of strain and stress on
You're so
parenting and
exhausted by the time you get home. You don't
everything.
want to meditate. You don't want to
No,
even take a
no,
bath and take care of yourself. You just want to plop in front of the
yeah,
TV and eat your fast food because you're so tired.
yep,
You got kids, you may not have kids, whatever, but it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting.
yes. And believe me, I'm one to know as well. And I vowed to not go back to Hollywood after seeing all of its deceptions and being aware of all of the things that happen. And it's just not good. It's not good to be in a place where you're a part of a great deception. Even
Hmm.
though it's fun, in some ways, it's not fun in others because you realize you're a slave. You've got to get up at a certain hour, like very early, and then you don't get home until very late. And it's just too much. It's way too much. But people need to start just walking away from that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it looks like honestly that Hollywood is starting to go away on its own. So that's another
I've
insight.
noticed that a lot of, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but it's like everything just repeats itself. It's like a regurgitation of movies that came out years ago, and it's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
remakes. And it's getting to the point where it's unentertaining,
Yeah,
and
it's
yeah,
not even good. Like the content that's out
it's not.
there, the actors, the acting, the quality it's really bad, honestly. And I can't. I'll watch something for about 5 or 10 minutes and I have to turn it off because I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I
I'm
just can't get into it. My mind is,
done.
doing other things.
Too
Yeah.
much. Just like, no, that's not happening. So, but on another note, with all this AI stuff, so AI is eventually going to be, with this whole idea of technology, you're going to be able to make a choice of whether you want to live forever or
Yeah.
die.
Please, folks, do not do that.
Do
Please.
not do the technology.
Teach your children, do not be afraid to die. You guys,
Yes.
this is so temporary. I mean, we are here for a nanosecond of a moment and we get to, we live forever and don't worry about it. Please do not, it's in the Bible. What is it? It's, people will long for death and it shall not find
Yes. And,
them. I mean,
but
oh my gosh.
but that's because they will be able to upload and download your consciousness and put it into new bodies. You will never die. You'll be exhausted because someone will be able to hack into your body and your mind. It's a different way. When we are just whole and pure with our spirit, you can't be hacked unless you're doing dark things like drugs and doing drinking and all. Then you can kind of be, vampires will attach to you and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you walk into any bar, like if I go in a bar, oh my God, I won't do it. Like I got invited to the rap party for the show that I was on, and I was like, you know what? I really don't want to go there. I was like, nah.
I had an experience the other day. So, I'm intuitive. I feel people's emotions and, all kinds of other stuff. I actually saw it for the first time though, Ellen. I was speaking to somebody and their eyes were like a shadow and it changed in the blink back to normal. And even their voice changed. I've never seen it before. I always knew it was there, but I've never actually seen it. And it felt like a force was coming at me. And I knew I couldn't be harmed, but it was so in my face, like, you guys really need to be aware of what is out there and the things that you're doing to lower your frequency, to make you more susceptible to these dark forces. Like I said, it's normal to, be angry or mad or come up with crazy scenarios in your head. Everybody does it. But there's that. I feel like when we do that, we're almost being attacked in some way to see how far they can go and how much they can, crack through your energy field and open you up to more and more and more before you're, I mean, for lack of a better word, possessed without even knowing it,
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely. I also had another friend who recently had an encounter with uh, somebody else that was obviously possessed. She said she knew right off the bat that this person had some sort of dark spirit on her. And I mean, you can feel it sometimes. You can just feel the energy radiating off of the person. You're like, okay, this isn't good. And those are the moments where you just want to keep your conversation short. Don't try to focus on the person too much, but put your attention somewhere else. And when you do, it kind of disengages them because they want your focus and they want to try to manipulate you. So, and I've learned that, psychology is everything. If you know how to play upon people's, emotions or non-emotions, then you can use it to your best advantage, not to, get one over on people, but in these situations where you feel someone's negative energy because they're piercing at you
Mhm.
with their eyes. They'll stare at you in a certain way, and you're like, okay, something's wrong with this person. Well, you just look at them and you turn and focus your direction somewhere else. Like focus your attention somewhere else. Don't even look them in the eye because they're trying to like read you. And when they read you, if you're giving them your energy, then they're going to keep, trying to pull more out of you. This is something that I've noticed with vampires.
So also, if you can't walk away, because there are situations, let's say in the workplace, where it's not appropriate to turn away and walk away. What you need to do is you need to focus right here. Do not look them in the eye, but dead stare right here. And you will notice them take a big step back. And, you're asserting your authority and controlling that negative energy. And then you guys, the salt, I cannot stress enough how important salt is. Um, there are other things you can do to cleanse yourself as well. You all have heard of sage and probably cedar and but if you don't have anything at your disposal, you can even do like a a wind wash or bathe yourself in the light of a flame. There's lots and lots of different things that you can do. And there's a lot of things you can do to protect yourself when you leave the house. Like Ellen, when you were talking about the oil and the salt, I absolutely love that. No one's going to know you put that on before you left the house.
Mhm.
There are lots of other things you can do too. You could charge specific things of jewelry. You can, the list just goes on and on and on. But we just need to be aware of these energies that are assaulting us. When you're talking to somebody and you just feel yucky afterwards, that was probably one of those entities,
Mhm.
you know? And you need to take care of that so it doesn't
Yes.
lower your frequency.
Take a shower because the water
Yeah,
cleanses everything, but you
it
have to
really does.
talk to your water. The water, so I also saw this video where this guy was putting some sort of electrical device in different waters. And he was proving that they did not have an electrical charge to them. They were dead waters, basically. And he had a glass of Kangen water, which is that Japanese device, that you can buy.
Mhm.
And it lit up. As soon as he touched the glass of water, his whatever gauge it was, it lit up. And
There are
so,
ways you can charge your water. That King device, I've heard of it. It's very expensive, of
mhm,
course, but there are ways you can do it at home. And Ellen, you've talked about a long time ago, with the crystal and all the things. But even just
yes,
moving your water and talking to it, if that's all you can do, that's okay. That movement and your energy and your breath and your word, the vibration of your words help bring it back to life,
yes.
um, and make it healthy and good for you.
Absolutely. That's what I usually do too. And what I've started doing is, I've been buying water recently because I haven't been going to the spring that has the sulfur water. But I buy the water and then I transfer it into a crystal pitcher. And the crystal pitcher, when I pour it in, I make sure it's going clockwise, so it's pulling in beneficial energy and I'm giving it good thoughts as I'm pouring it. So, because as you have your food, your water, different things that are touching these metals and these different toxic chemicals and things, it's actually taking on that energy.
Hmm.
A good thing you can do, just a little sample practice of thing you can do is place a perfume next to a liquid item, some other liquid items. Like even like I've noticed if you put like some of these chemical cleaners next to something you're going to drink, they're going to start taking on the flavor of that chemical.
Does.
And this is part of radionics. So you
Yes,
know
it is.
about these radiating fields of energy because it's light. Everything is based on light frequencies.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, think of how toxic your tap water is.
Yes.
Not only is it being abused going through the treatment plants, and then chemicals are added to it, and then it's sitting in plastic. Most people have plastic pipes these days, and as it's rushing out of the tap, it's not like a free flowing,
Mhm.
it's almost like fractionated. It's the way that your tap brings it out. And I'm pretty sure that water isn't very happy. So if you just take a minute to reset it, and also if you again, back to the copper, if you have a copper vessel, just putting your water in a copper vessel actually resets it, so all that negativity leaves, and then you have a moment to program it yourself on what it is that you want the water to do for you.
Well, just so you know, I have a copper vessel, and
Hmm.
that thing, I can't drink the water from it. It gets way too strong. I don't know what it does to it, but
Where's it sitting?
it is sitting in my kitchen and is in the sunlight.
Next to something. Okay, so I wouldn't put anything in the sun, because it warms it up. Any metal that's warm probably isn't good. So how does it taste to you? And what kind of copper is it?
It's an old copper pitcher, like it's an old copper, and it's a dispenser for water because it has a
Yeah.
little water dispenser thing on it. But
Huh.
it's yeah, it's old copper, so it's not something new that might be made of
Yeah.
different metals. Um,
Okay. Take it out of the sun. But I have a copper cup that I drink out of, and I let it sit overnight, and I love it. The water tastes sweet, and it's like silkier. I love it. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean it can be, but you know what? I have a copper cup too. It's called Vespa, I think, or something like that. There's some kind of, copper cup that's like these different things that have a screw-on lid and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Whole
yeah.
thing is copper, and I decided that I would take that to work every day. Well, leaving water in it overnight, ooh, it just gets way too strong for me. Maybe it's my blood type, I don't know, but I can't drink it if it's been in there too long.
That's it. Well, go with what your intuition and your body's telling you. 100%. That's never wrong.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, it just gets, there's a strong taste. It's not even really metallic. It's just a very
hmm.
strong energy, I guess. I don't
I've
even,
never had that. I love my copper.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. Like if it's just there for a couple of hours or something, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is good. But if I leave it for 24 hours, forget it. It's like, no, now I can't drink it. So I have to pour it out.
Well, there are earthenware vessels that you can use to leave your water in if you want. You can buy them at a lot of, if you have Indian stores or whatever, and they're really good for helping to reset your water also. And of course, if you don't have anything, just a glass pitcher, just whatever you do, don't use plastic.
Oh yeah, no, we got to move away from the plastic. The plastic is horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. Absolutely killing
I
everybody.
mean, we have so much plastic in us too. It's like unbelievable. Like, when they test us for plastic, it's like, oh, you got that much plastic in you?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, but
Another thing that they've done.
I'm going to show this because this is kind of an interesting um dynamic that I think will probably restore our water too. If we can find some stone working places to perhaps make these types of things. So this is spiraling water, and they did this outside in stone, where the water will go counterclockwise and then it pours back clockwise and it goes out into another vessel. And this is found around the world. So obviously, they were having problems with the kind of things that we're having problems with as well. And, I don't think the people of the past were primitive. I think they were
No.
exactly like us. I think
Mm.
that they had some sort of dark forces that were becoming an abomination to the way that they lived and wanted to live. And I think that they started, coming up with these solutions.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I know we can't carve this into stone, but we can swirl our water and do that movement. Because these spirals are the way water, if you let a water go in a river, you'll notice really old rivers, they have twists and they have turns. And as it's, babbling down the creek, it's twisting and turning around the rocks also, and it's giving that water, positive energy. And so when we try to replicate that, it's more beneficial for our bodies.
So, but let's think of this too from the perspective of what water is. Water's magnetic. So, what do you do? When you spin it counterclockwise, you're actually pushing out energy. And so, as it's encompassed within itself, see that if it comes out of this little vessel here and it comes down and it goes spiraling counterclockwise, it's going to then be inside the field that goes clockwise. So this is kind of like what CERN is doing, for example, where they have these different particles that are spinning in opposite directions. It's restructuring the water in its different fields that it already has. So I think that's going to be the difference from just swirling it around in, say, your pitcher at home. Uh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of need that outer field to also affect the inner field, and it restructures it based on the magnetism that it has. So
Hmm.
I'm like, that's pretty amazing that they had all the knowledge of all the answers of the problems that we now face. So all we have to do is turn to the past to really kind of hone in on some of these different ideas. And that's why I say that alchemy is so very important right now, That if we were to just turn to alchemy and what the alchemists of old, which were also known as philosophers like Greek philosophers like Plato, Ptolemy, Pythagoras, all these people were actually alchemists, is what I've been learning. And that when you study nature and everything, how nature works and ticks, you're going to start learning the secrets of the entire universal construct. And that's what they don't want us to have, is that kind of knowledge.
And it makes you wonder what happened to all this knowledge. Why was it destroyed? How was it destroyed? What happened? I
Well, it
just,
wasn't really
you know,
destroyed. All it was fragmented. It was
mhm.
compartmentalized and fragmented after the world broke, after the fall of Egypt, which collapsed the entire world society. I believe that they were battling each other on many different fronts with these pyramids. I think the pyramids could be harnessed as weapons, and that they provide so much energy that they can actually send it across many hundreds of miles if necessary, if you know how to harness it. And they probably use mirrors or some other way to direct the energy, because there's a lot of old lithographs of little drawings where they show them with mirrors, and they're using the sunlight to burn ships and stuff. And that could possibly be this whole Greek fire, because they said the Greek fire was, you could burn things underwater.
I want to know what's with the granite sarcophaguses that are in there. I feel like it's some sort of meditation, or not really meditation, but like you could travel the universe going in there, because the frequency of the quartz combined with the shape of the pyramid, combined with the shapes of the hieroglyphs, and there used to be a capstone on the pyramid. It just makes you wonder if it was a way to travel, to travel across
Uh,
dimensions. Not
There's it.
physically, but like dimensionally.
Well, the whole thing is, yes, it can be an initiation type of chamber, but that would be a very slow process, just having one. What's interesting is that the dimensions of that box actually fit to the dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant, and Ark would be ARC, not ARK.
Right,
Because
right.
arc is
It's energy.
electricity. Gold is the highest level of electricity. Like the output that gold has is so incredibly powerful as an electrical current, like a metal that can amplify energies and things, that I think, based on what they have labeled the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, this is the sun and the moon that we're talking about. And that would be gold and silver.
So
So
just a second, there's something to gold. So, like for instance, in the Muslim religion, men are not supposed to wear gold. And the
Mhm.
reason why they've done experiments is because it lowers sperm count. It physically lowers your sperm count. But yet it's good for women to wear gold. And so, because it's beneficial for women. And there's all kinds of rules in the Vedic when it comes to gold and silver, what you're supposed to do with it, how you're supposed to wear it, um, et cetera, et cetera. And so these metals, we have no grasp of what they really are, Ellen. There is, when you were talking about the monatomic gold and extending your life and all this information that, we need to rediscover.
I think but I think we're already on the cusp of that. And I think the main value of gold and silver is that you can create elixirs to extend or prolong life and to benefit and heal the body. Because, you know, just in the elixir of life that I've found is basically the Philosopher's Stone. It does require that you seal the stone with gold or with silver, depending on which one you have made. You either make a white stone or you make a red stone. The red stone requires that you seal it in gold, and the white stone requires that you seal it in silver. And that doesn't mean like wrap it in the metals. It means that you have to do a process where you have very minute physical particles to bind with the stones. And once it does, then that activates its capabilities of eternal life. One's eternal life and one's like for healing. And
Hmm.
the moon is for healing, and eternal life is with the one that's made with the gold. So Very fascinating information. This information is coming back. I believe it's long overdue. I believe that people have already done this in the past, that they are actually eternal beings. There was a story about a man. He was like an African type of man, and he got chopped up by a tractor. He got all these different things that happened to him, and he kept coming back to life. I need to get more information in regards to that story because it sounds like something like the story of Osiris,
It
where
does. Sounds just like a
Osiris,
fire.
yeah, had to be chopped apart and his body parts had to be taken to the four corners of the earth and in order for him to actually die, which would imply that Osiris had gotten his hands on some sort of alchemical knowledge.
Well, I know like the yogis in India, they go and meditate in caves for years and they're very emaciated and they come back and they do all of these wonderful healing regimens involving oils, herbs, metals, all these things. And they sort of come back to life, so they can start the process all over back with the meditation and things of that nature.
Yep.
So I do believe it is possible to extremely prolong your life. Um, but then going back to the AI tech, you don't want to live forever. Like you want to be done at some point, experience what you need to experience, and then move on.
Yep, even if you were to gain access to the Philosopher's Stone and live forever that way, you can choose when you want to die. That's
Mhm.
the difference between, the Philosopher's Stone versus the AI, which,
Technology, you won't have that choice. That
yeah,
choice will have been taken from you. Please
yep,
remember this. When
because
you give up your humanness, you are giving up your choice.
everything in this existence requires your consent. And this is what I've learned about contracts. You're making contracts with literally everything out here in existence. And as you make those contracts, do they bind us to future, timelines? Possibly, because contracts can be very binding. So what do? You make your own contract because your voice is made of light and so is your soul. So you say, hey, look, as I leave this experience, all of my contracts are null and void, and this includes ones that may, have an effect on a future timeline. These are the things that you can do because you house the power of the light.
Mhm. Oh, every time you have to click the I agree button on whatever app or computer thing that you're doing, I always say I do not agree, I do not consent, and I
Yes.
click it anyway because you can't go any further without it. But as long as it understands I do not consent, you put that vibration out there.
Yes,
Hmm.
remember that you have more authority than any corporate entity out here.
Hmm.
Corporations are dead legal fictions, which are corpse orations. They are dead speaking things. So, but
Exactly.
with that being said, we have less than a minute. So I guess we're doing good.
We're at a time limit again.
Yeah, I don't really have a paid account anymore. So, because I don't want to give them my money.
No,
Just on the
no.
freebie, which is fine. I think we've spoken enough anyway.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, well, it has been great to have this moment again with you, Kara, and I am excited to put this video out as soon as I am done with, up recording and doing all that. Then I'll upload this and it'll be available online.
All right. Well, it's good to see everybody again, and we'll catch y'all in the next one, right?
Yep, sure thing. Thanks for joining us on Kara Hour.
Bye.
Okay, bye, y'all.